people signing on here, so I'm going to give it another minute, and then we will get underway with our webinar series here today. Okay, thank you all for joining today. And we appreciate the chance to be with you again starting here in 2021, continuing on our asset management webinar series that we started last year, and we'll continue to carry on here through 2021 about every month or so. Today, Kerry Hoffman is with us from Trimble Water to talk to us a little bit about some wastewater solutions and technologies that they have to offer, and as we do for you in your management of your systems. We have everyone on mute. We certainly would like you to ask questions. Feel free to do those via the chat window throughout the webinar. And then towards the end of the webinar, we'll open up for questions and take everybody off mute. And you're welcome to ask them verbally then to Kerry as well. Also, this meeting will be recorded. That way you don't have to scramble and take a lot of notes. We'll send the recording to you afterwards. And also for those who weren't able to join us today but signed up, then we'll have them a link for the webinar so they can listen as well. So with no further ado, Kerry, I'll let you take it away.
Well, thanks very much, York, and it's a pleasure to speak with everybody today. I'd like to thank York from Duncan-Parnell for setting this up today, and I'm really looking forward to speaking with everybody who's taking your time to view this webinar, and I certainly hope that it's beneficial for you. So just a real quick agenda. So just a quick introduction about myself. So my name is Kerry Hoffman. I work for Trimble in the Utilities and Public Administration division, specifically under Trimble Water, and I'll talk a bit more about who Trimble Water is in just a moment. I myself have been in the business for well over 10 years. I've worked in various capacities throughout the water industry, and I've grown to love this business, and I love the passion that so many of our customers and partners have for it. My personal conviction is that there is no more important resource than water, and it's, you know, we have technology that we provide every day to help solve critical problems for people, to ensure that every day when everybody gets at home at night, they can turn on their sink or flush their toilet or any other application that they would be used to and have come accustomed to. We have technology that helps people make sure that those things happen seamlessly. So again, thank you all for taking the time, and it really is appreciated. The focus of today's webinar is really around wastewater. And what I'm going to do is kind of talk through a high level of standard wastewater applications, and you know, all sorts of things that folks who work in the wastewater business specifically are responsible for at any point in time. And then I'll move into some technology that Trimble provides around remote monitoring and IoT solutions. I'll touch on our Trimble Unity software, and if there's time at the end, I may even go into just a brief demo of the Unity software. And of course, questions and answers. I always like to make sure that before we all sign off, I've answered any questions that I could. So please feel free, as York mentioned, to pop those in the chat, and we'll answer them all before we move along today. So who is Trimble Water? Trimble Water, as I mentioned, is a division under the Utilities and Public Administration banner of the greater Trimble. Trimble, most people know based on high accuracy mapping. Trimble basically invented high accuracy mapping devices in the late 70s. Trimble offers technology across a whole bunch of different industries. In the utilities and public administration division, and even more specifically within Trimble Water, we work directly with water, wastewater, stormwater folks such as yourselves, and or other partners that work with people like yourselves, AEC firms, flow service providers, and the like. So we offer technology to the marketplace focused directly on water and wastewater. We're used in over 100 large utilities across the country. You could name the likes of New York City, or Boston, or Baltimore, or Washington D.C., and we could go across the country and name large cities like that. And our technology is operating there today and has been more than likely for a very long time. But we also are highly scalable in what we do, and over 3,000 plus small to medium-sized utilities use our technology as well. So you're going to see as a part of this webinar that we have a broad scope of technology that we offer to the business, and we have basically something for everyone. Trimble Water specifically delivers hardware and software across the infrastructure lifecycle for folks like yourselves, and I'm going to talk specifically about how that relates to wastewater today. You'll notice at the bottom of the screen here a couple logos that you may be familiar with. Telog Instruments. I actually came from Telog Instruments, worked there for quite a long time before we were acquired by Trimble back in 2015. So it's been almost 5.5 years since we've been a part of the larger Trimble banner. You may also be familiar with CityWorks. We acquired CityWorks back in 2019. So these are two great technology companies that we've added to the broader Trimble portfolio, again, focused directly on water and wastewater. We participate very heavily in WEF and AWA, SWAN, and other types of organizations as well. So what about wastewater? Let's just jump right in. So what you see here on the screen is kind of a basic diagram of a wastewater network, a collection system. And all of these different applications are critical pieces of the collection system that folks need to monitor, be proactive about, related to their asset management plans, and ultimately have eyes on. If we don't have eyes on the collection system, then we're being reactive instead of proactive, and sometimes that can be incredibly costly. So things around inflow and infiltration, or I&I, the ability to monitor for rainfall data as a part of the wastewater network, so like a quantitative flow, to be able to do that remotely. Back in the day, a long time ago, used to be you would monitor level rising in a manhole by putting chalk in the chimney or the top portion of the manhole. And after a rainstorm came through, when we went back out to the site, if the chalk was still there, the level didn't rise. If the chalk was gone, you knew that the level at least hit the line. So today we've kind of taken that technology significantly further, and we'll talk more about that as we move along. Also, just monitoring for open channel flow. So understanding quantitatively the amount of flow or pressure or level or even water quality instrumentation that you have in the field, not having to drive out there and actually read a screen or write something down on a clipboard one time and then leave, but to have this data in the palm of your hand. Also, flapgate monitoring. So CSOs and SSOs are very critical pieces of the wastewater collection system. Maybe some of you on the phone are under consent decree or have been in the past, and monitoring these applications to ensure that you're complying with that consent decree is very critical. We work with a lot of customers in the billing and custody transfer area. So, perhaps you or someone is a part of the utility that actually treats the water, but you have several other communities that are sending you water to treat. It's important to be able to quantify accurate flow monitoring in order to provide billing. for those people. So we help a lot in those applications. Also, rainfall monitoring, just having the ability to put some rain gauges around your network and understand how rain events and storm events are affecting your wastewater network. We do a lot of that. And then finally, lift stations. So, the ability to monitor the activity of a lift station or a pump station, be notified if the wet well rises above an acceptable amount, or having the pump activity so you know that your pumps are operating properly, being notified if power fails at a pump station, which is incredibly critical, because if the pump station doesn't work, we're going to start having backups in the network, or several other types of things. All of these different applications are very critical parts of being able to proactively monitor your network. And oftentimes, once the sewage leaves the plant, we sometimes can lose eyes on how the network is actually operating. And that's where we come in to really provide technology to complement perhaps your SCADA system, or if you don't have any type of monitoring system, whether SCADA or anything else, to provide you tools to get a great eye on your network. So that's what we're going to focus on today. So how do we do it? Well, I mentioned Telog. Telog has been the market leader since 1984 as it relates to IoT and remote monitoring. We create technology that is wireless. It's very rugged, battery operated, cellular technology to go out into all of those applications that I just described and bring that data back to you, so you don't have to go out to the field to get that data. It's all about real-time situational awareness, giving you the ability to minimize or mitigate CSOs and SSOs and other environmental impacts. For example, and we'll talk more about this as we move along, but just as an example, if you have a CSO site that you're monitoring, we have technology that's easy to install to give you a multi-threshold level alarm in that CSO site to notify you that as a storm is passing through, you'll get an alarm at kind of the first critical point, and then at the second critical point, and then at the most critical point. You'll get multi-threshold alarms to help you understand when and where you may need to deploy a crew to ensure that you don't have some type of event where there would be some type of environmental impact. And we focus across the water cycle, as you'll see in a coming slide. But at the end of the day, this technology is all about optimizing operations, streamlining your asset management process, and giving you a true understanding of your asset performance. So here's an example of one of our pieces of technology, one of our RTUs. In our world, an RTU is a recording telemetry unit. You might also refer to it as a smart data logger. It's rugged. It's almost all of them are designed to go in very tough places to get data back from, like a manhole, or in this case, a vault. So if this vault were to flood, this device would still operate. And you'd be able to still get data back from this site. We have built-in cellular technology into all of our devices, so they're all 4G. We're forward thinking on our communications. So things like Category M, NB-IoT, whatever. These are things that we're aware of and will be a part of our solution as necessary moving forward. One of the most important pieces of our technology, though, is that it's battery operated. You do not need to run power to a site to get this critical data back. And that's really, really important. Oftentimes, when we get out of the plant and we want to get into the collection system and we want to be able to get eyes inside of a manhole, on a 4x4 in the middle of a park, inside of a lift station, or any other place like that, people oftentimes think, well, I need to run power to a site to do that, and it's really not the case. Our devices are battery operated for many, many years, in some cases up to 5 years. So you could install a device like this, have a 5-year battery life, wireless, cellular, battery operated, smart device to save you time, increase your efficiency, and ultimately give you eyes on all of your applications. So as I mentioned, we create technology for across the water cycle. So you know, some of you may work in the clean water world as well as the wastewater world, and if you do, you know, we do a lot of work on insertion flow metering, actually hot tapping pipes and doing flow monitoring with clean potable water. Also, a lot of pressure monitoring, impulse, transient detection, level monitoring, whether it be in a tank or in a reservoir or wherever that may be. But then on the bottom of the slide, also the applications I mentioned previously: rainfall, open channel flow, CSOs, SSOs, and lift stations. The great thing about our portfolio is that we have an application and a piece of technology across the water cycle that brings all of this data into one common platform. We're seeing more and more that a lot of our customers that do operate on both sides of the industry really appreciate the fact that they have a single vendor, that they go out, they get what they need for their applications, whether it's water or wastewater. They have a single software platform, and all of their important information is in one single location. And we'll talk more about how all that works as we progress. Just a real quick overview on how the data is transferred. So as I mentioned, all of the devices have a cellular modem inside of them. Sometimes we do Ethernet, it's very rare. Sometimes we use what's called LoRa technology, it's very rare. 98 to 99% of our customers utilize cellular technology. We are platinum partners with the likes of Verizon and others. So we are able to provide you the cellular technology at a very cost-effective rate. It's included in our software subscription. And ultimately, the devices are collecting data however often you like. So for example, in a manhole, you may want to have data sampled every 15 minutes. And the device in the manhole is waking up, taking a sample every 15 minutes, and logging all of those samples inside of itself. But then maybe every hour it's waking up and it's pushing all of that data back to our software system, where you can then view that data. So instead of calling in every 15 minutes, it's only calling in every hour, or even more common, once or twice a day. That way we're able to save the battery, but give you all of the data that's collected from the field. Now, if there's an event in the field, so for example, if there's an alarm condition or a high level, or I mentioned that CSO event earlier, we'll wake up in addition to our normal call schedule, and we'll dump all of the data we've collected, including the alarm data, right as soon as you receive that alarm notification. So that's just a real quick overview on how it works. In my career, I've only really had 1 or 2 times that we couldn't get a cellular call back. So what that means is we're going to be able to get a cellular signal back. And the network is already there. As I mentioned, we have great partners on the cellular service side. So really easy installation for you. All right, so let's dig a little further into the wastewater monitoring solutions. As I mentioned, our technology is really focused on key applications on the wastewater side. So overflow monitoring, whether that be CSOs or SSOs, I&I analysis, model calibration, custody transfer, and billing. So let's dig into how we do that. Well, we have a very flexible hardware solution, and you see some of the things at the bottom of the screen. But ultimately, we have a contactless or a non-contact flow and velocity monitoring sensor. That's the second thing from your left. We've got level monitoring devices. That's the third. And we have surcharge monitoring. That's the fourth. They're all powered by the one that says 4G LTE on the left-hand side. So that's the actual RTU, or recording telemetry unit. And all of these other devices next to that plug into the RTU and are all battery powered by the RTU. So depending on your site conditions, we may install one or all of these different pieces of sensors tied to the RTU to make sure that we're fitting your application properly. So we're going to talk specifically about the Raven Eye, which I'm just going to go back, which is the second one here in the picture. So you have the RU35, the RTU there. and you have the Raven Eye next to it, and we're going to dig into that one just a little bit further. It's one of our newer pieces of technology. It's very popular, and it does a lot of things. So I think it's important to focus on that one just a little bit. So what is the Raven Eye specifically? So the Raven Eye is a non-contact open channel smart radar sensor. So that device projects a radar beam from above the flow down to the flow to give us back flow information. It's a technically advanced radar system. So every time you may have been driving down a village street and one of those signs that says speed limit 30 and it shows how you're really going 40, or maybe it's really me who's going 40, and you have to slow down because it's blinking red at you and it wants you to go 30 miles an hour, that's a radar system. This is operating in a very similar manner, except we focused it on wastewater application instead of on how fast I'm driving my car. This solution is designed specifically for flow measurements really across the water cycle, but really specifically into municipal wastewater and stormwater collection systems. It's great in wastewater treatment plants. It could also be used in industrial applications or rivers and streams too. So anywhere where you're looking to get a flow measurement, this is an excellent way to do that. It's really the perfect condition for normal and difficult flow conditions. So any of you on the call here that may have applications where you have high solid content, or you have high temperatures, or you have shallow and caustic flows. You know, some of my folks in different parts of the country, they have really shallow flow but high velocities. And when you're putting a sensor in the pipe, you're getting what's called rooster tailing. In other words, the water is hitting the sensor in the bottom of the pipe, and it's flying over top of the sensor, thus giving you an inaccurate measurement on what's actually happening there. We solve that with this device because it's not in the flow, it's monitoring the flow from above using that radar. Another thing this is great at is very large pipes. So we have folks that use this on the influent and effluent in and out of their treatment plants, or extremely large pipes. This works great. As well as low water levels. This is a solution that's been proven worldwide. There are thousands and thousands of these devices installed all across the world, and it's a very key piece of the Trimble flow monitoring kit that we provide to the market. So what are some of the values that it brings? So it's designed not only for regular sites, but also challenging sites. This thing can work almost anywhere. So that's a benefit because once your crews get used to installing devices like this, it's very quick and very easy to get it up and running. Again, I mentioned it's contactless, so it never touches the water. That equals low or virtually zero maintenance. Once you're putting this device in a manhole or some other application, there is no maintenance on the device. It just works, which equates to a single entry. Again, once this thing is installed, you don't really have to visit it. The device has the smarts to let us know and let you know if there's some sort of issue that would require you to visit the field. But you don't have to go out to the field and worry about ragging on a sensor, or has the sensor been ripped out of the pipe because of really strong velocity or something like that. This doesn't have any of those issues. Very accurate, plus minus 5%, but actually much better than that. But we spec it at effectively what is the industry standard for flow monitoring. We also offer bidirectional flows. Why is this important? Well, if there's a blockage and for some reason flow starts going the other way, that's a really bad thing. And we can alert you of that as soon as it happens. So you and your customers are not surprised, and you make sure that nobody's basements are getting backed up or anything like that. I mentioned it's battery operated. I also mentioned internal diagnostics, and it's self-calibrating. So what does that mean? It's basically machine learning. Once this device is installed, it learns the flow pattern, and it'll self-calibrate itself and self-calibrate the radar sensor to ensure that it's giving us the most accurate readings that it can. And this is actually patented. So we're the only ones that have that. Some other key features, it's also not affected by floating objects and high solids. So, sometimes in the flow, these high solids or just standard floating objects can give other types of technology on the market false positives of different types of flows. It's also not influenced by changing turbidity because it's a self-learning sensor. It has an incredibly quick measurement cycle. So it wakes up, takes a sample of roughly 25 seconds, and in that 25 seconds, it's taking thousands of data points. That equals very accurate measurement. Low power consumption, it's IP68 rated. What does that mean? Well, differently than other technology on the market, there are no joints. There's no seals or screws or O-rings that you may need to maintain. Other sensors on the market require you to do certain types of maintenance to keep that type of rating. That's not the case with the Raven Eye. We offer it with a standard warranty of 1 year, but it is expandable up to 5 years as well. This is what the installation looks like. So it has a really nifty bracket, as you can see in the lower left-hand side, that it's effectively a ball joint, and that allows us to manipulate the sensor really 360 degrees to ensure that we're hitting the flow in the very perfect part of where it needs to be. The personnel have minimum contact with the flow. It's a one-time entry, a one-time install. No site calibration is required. And it's got a 35-degree viewing angle, which makes it perfect for almost any site. And it also can shoot from 49 feet above the flow. So in spots, especially industrial applications or other spots, maybe in a river or a stream, where you may put the sensor very high up, like on a bridge or something, we can shoot down 49 feet and get that accurate measurement as well. All right, so we're going to move on from just the flow monitoring portion, and we're going to talk about some other applications. So when we talk about lift stations, this is a device that we would traditionally put in a lift station or a pump station, and the actual device is over on the right-hand side. It's called our R3300 series units, and what they provide effectively are universal inputs. So when you think about a pump station and a pump panel, it's very common to have things like sensors that provide a 4 to 20 milliamp output, or a 0 to 5 volt output, or something similar. This device here can accept up to 30 of those types of channels. So we can monitor virtually anything inside of even very large pump stations, bring them into this device, and do the same type of smart data logging, but only for a whole bunch of different parameters. We have people here that monitor pump runtimes. They monitor the wet well level. They monitor amperage. They monitor groundwater, generator kicking on. You name it, we can log it with this device. We have our RU32 device, which is the same one that I showed up in the vault earlier. This one also has universal inputs and can take in less amounts, but a couple 4 to 20s or a voltage, and it's a very quick and easy installation. It's really designed around level monitoring in a manhole. It's also used commonly for discharge pressure monitoring out of a lift station or a pump station as well. We have our PFE32 unit. This is a single channel device, and this device is typically the easiest way and the most cost-effective way to get a level measurement in the collection system. You can put a float switch on this thing, hang it in the manhole, and we'll notify you if the float goes high. It's literally that simple. We also have folks that bring in other types of channels into this. So this can accept a pulse or effectively a dry contact into it, and then we can scale it appropriately for whatever that sensor might be into our system. Our PR32, so this device is focused around pressure monitoring. In a collection system application, it's used most often for discharge pressure out of a lift station. Again, a single channel pressure monitoring device. Our RS33U unit. So this device is also highly flexible and used throughout the collection system. Um, it does a lot of different things. It can connect up to virtually any flow meter on the market. So if you have any existing flow meters that you may be driving to today or sending personnel out to today to collect some information on paper, this device can probably connect up to it and bring that data back remotely using the cellular technology that I've spoken about today. This device, though, kind of takes it a step further. We can also connect up to PLCs. So if you have a PLC or some other type of Modbus device out in the field, this device can read that Modbus up to 14 different registers and bring that data back to our system as well. This is really the big workhorse around the wastewater side. So this is our RU35. You saw a picture of it earlier as we were talking about the Raven Eye. This device is really focused around nearly every application across the collection system. Why is that a benefit? Again, because you are using a single device for multiple things. Your crews get used to it. They know how to maintain it, change the batteries and other types of things. So it can do a whole bunch of different stuff. This also connects up to virtually any open channel flow meter on the market. So again, if you have flow meters in your fleet that are logging data for you out in the field, but you have to go out to the site to collect that data, we can bring that data remotely back to you by connecting one of these devices to that flow meter. Consequently, we can also provide you our flow metering solution, which is this device plus the Raven Eye we spoke about, and a couple other sensors that we offer as well. This system can also monitor for water quality. We offer a conductivity sensor. We can do level monitoring with this device. You can put multiple different sensors connected up to a single RTU, again, with all of that battery-operated wireless technology. And this runs, by the way, on 2 Lantern batteries. So there are no proprietary batteries with this device. You can go to a Lowe's or a Home Depot or wherever and replace with Lantern batteries right off the shelf. This device can connect up to a bunch of other different sensors too, some that we provide and some that you may already have. You can connect up a pressure level sensor to this device and monitor for level that way. You could put an ultrasonic level sensor and connect up. We provide one if you have one that provides us an output, an industry standard output, like a 4 to 20 or something, we can bring that in. We do offer an in-pipe sensor as well. Sometimes an in-pipe sensor is a great solution for a flow monitoring application, and we provide that. And you could connect up all 3 of those devices to the RU35 if you wanted to. And then there's a whole bunch of other sensors that are on the market, all supported by our RU35 device. So other comparative flow monitoring technology from other manufacturers, we can plug them into the 35, and we have specified cables for virtually every flow meter on the market. We do water quality monitoring beyond conductivity by connecting up to SONs and other type of water quality devices. So we have standard applications for that as well. Ultimately, the message is, if you have a sensor in the field that you want information back from, we have a solution for it. So to kind of summarize the hardware, it really all starts with the Telog devices in the field. Regardless of the application, water or wastewater, rugged or in an enclosure, in a lift station, wherever it may be, out in the collection system, we have a specified piece of technology to get that data and bring it back for you. And we do it over the cellular technology. So all the devices have built-in wireless cellular modems. The data is collected in the field, then transmitted over cellular technology back to our back-end system, which ultimately goes to our Trimble Unity platform. And I'm going to kind of transition into software in a moment, but I just wanted to pause and see, are there any questions related to hardware that I can answer right now?
So far, I don't see anything in the chat window here, but anybody certainly feel free to shout out and give us a question, and Kerry's happy to answer them for you.
Absolutely. All right, we'll keep on trucking, but as I mentioned, please feel free to ask any questions at all. So we'll get into software a little bit. Any good piece of hardware is only as good as the software that supports it. You can have the best piece of hardware out in the field, but if you're not getting data back easily and having a software system that allows you to display that data, create reports and other types of things, the piece of hardware is not bringing you a lot of value. And Trimble Water is really proud to offer a system that's a complete system from all the hardware that I've spoken about, but also with a very robust software, which is called Trimble Unity. Our Trimble Unity platform kind of starts out with a system health dashboard where all of the data, all of the health of the network, I should say, the RTUs themselves are reported there. So you can see your battery statuses, any active alarms, your call statuses, and other types of things in one easy to use dashboard. Unity also gives you the ability to create and manage your own reports. So perhaps you're in the operations department and you'd like to create reports that are pertinent to your job, but the engineering team would like to use that data in a different way. You can create these reports, customize them however you like, and share them however you like as well. You can view and filter and group all of your sites, and it's all done in a GIS-centric view. So we integrate directly with Esri ArcGIS. Our system is integrated directly with that. So if you have a GIS system, we're going to be able to integrate directly with that, bringing in any of your layers and any GIS data to make the data that we're collecting and providing for you even more actionable and powerful. All of our devices are capable of providing multi-threshold alarms, as I've mentioned. We have very easy to use portions of our software that allow you to review alarm conditions and then create things, notifications or even work orders, if you like, based on those alarm conditions. We allow you to annotate and share anomalies in our system. So you can create notes if you observe something abnormal in the network that you'd like somebody to look at, or you need further review on, or if a storm has affected the system in a certain way and thus caused your flow to go up for a period of time, you can annotate right on the report and save that accordingly. We have the ability to install and configure our RTUs right from the website, and I'll show you that when we jump over there in just a moment. Everything as it relates to our hardware is controlled by the software, so you don't have to visit the field unless there's some sort of site maintenance taking place. And of course, Trimble Unity is not only a cloud-based platform, but it's also a mobile application. So it's essentially agnostic to what type of device you want to use, whether it's an iPhone or iPad, or it's an Android device, or even Windows. Unity works on all of them. And not only is it a website that conforms to your mobile device, it's an actual application. You can go to your app store right now and download Trimble Unity. It's a legit app. We also take the integration with ArcGIS one step further. So we have the capability to connect with what we call the ArcGIS connector, our data via APIs into ArcGIS. So what does that allow you to do? Well, we provide native APIs or feature services that allow you to create web maps and dashboards consuming all of the data that we're collecting. You kind of see an example here on the right-hand side of the screen. This could be high flow events or CSO events or lift station activity or really whatever else you would want. And this gives you the tools using pre-canned KPIs to make this data more actionable across your organization. And you can even provide analysis and insights on this data as well using this connector. So this is a pretty powerful piece of our software that's an add-on for folks that are interested. These are some of the pre-canned KPIs. If you look on the right-hand side of the screen, focus specifically on wastewater. So we do like daily flow, whether it's total, average, min, max flows. Same with depth and also capacity. So peak capacity, flow, and depth. These are really important KPIs as it relates to the performance of your network. And these are right out of the box using this connector, and we're always adding more. And the same goes for rain. So the total depth and the peak intensity of rain also right out of the box. A question I get all the time: can I get this data into my SCADA system? And the answer is yes. Trimble Unity supports a standard RESTful API. It's okay if you don't know what that is, we can help. But all modern SCADA systems that I've seen support the ability to use APIs. And what that means is our hardware in the field transmits its data wirelessly to Trimble Unity, where you will have the ability to configure the RTU, manage your alarms, create all the reports and all that good stuff. But it also gives Unity the ability to serve up this data for your SCADA system to come and grab it. And this is really valuable because your SCADA operators oftentimes don't have the ability to see remote data out in the field in SCADA, because SCADA is not really designed for the field. And so we can kind of bring eyes on the collection system in a really nice way and then summarize it all up for you using this API. I should also mention that our devices do not do control. We are not SCADA. We are the DA portion of SCADA, the data acquisition portion of SCADA, supported by a very powerful software system. Because we don't do control, we're very secure, and it's typical that most folks would give access across the organization to our Unity platform because we're not controlling anything. And so there's kind of a peace of mind there. I saw some questions rolling in, and this is my last slide, so I think I'd like to answer those, and then we can jump in and do just a quick software demo before we're done.
Yeah, go ahead, Kerry. So we got a couple about the Raven Eye. I guess the first one is, how about that IP68 and underwater conditions? How well does the Raven Eye do with overflows?
Excellent. Yeah, excellent question. So the Raven Eye is a fully sealed unit. It does not, so it's out of the box IP68 rated and requires nothing to maintain that rating. That is key. There's other systems on the market that require maintenance on O-rings and maintenance on screw replacements and other types of things that the IP68 rating goes away if that maintenance isn't done on a yearly basis. Not the case with the Raven Eye. The Raven Eye can be fully submerged and still work. And in fact, in places where you have surcharges, our solution is ideal, because the Raven Eye will do the standard flow monitoring, but we'll install additional sensors to alert you and still monitor the level in surcharge conditions. So it can be fully submerged and still work, as well as the RU35 powering it.
Okay, great, thank you. In addition, about the Raven Eye, is there an easy way to mount it without having to enter the manhole? For example, let's say you're doing a 2 or 3 week monitoring and then you want to move it to a different location quickly and easily.
Yeah, so that's an interesting question, and really the way to answer it is it depends on the site. I've done a lot of work in some very shallow manholes, and when I say shallow, I mean 3 to 8 feet. In those cases, absolutely, you can mount it right from the street without even really ever entering the manhole, and absolutely you could leave it in there for handful of days, weeks, whatever you like, and then remove the contraption, basically the bracket, and put it somewhere else. That bracket, by the way, it essentially gets installed on the sidewall of the manhole using a hammer drill and some robust bolts. So theoretically, yeah, you could remove it. I don't see them being moved around a lot, but yeah, in theory, you definitely could.
Okay, great, thank you. And then relative to the integration with Esri that you discussed, when there's an overflow discovered, can you use any tools inside Esri to help trace that line upstream to possibly indicate an I&I location?
Wow, that's an awesome question. So the answer ultimately would be yes. It all starts with knowing that you have I&I issues, which is where the hardware comes in. So basically, with the KPI, let me just go back to that slide actually. So with the KPI, using these different metrics, you're going to have out of the box the ability to have capacity, like every hour capacity and every hour flow capacity. So in theory, depending on how many points you're monitoring, you could use that KPI to push that data into ArcGIS, as I described with the connector, and then trace that line back to see at which point are you either having a blockage, or is that blockage releasing, or whatever the case may be. But again, it comes down to how many points are you monitoring to be able to trace that line back. But that's certainly something we could take offline and have a wider discussion about.
Great, thank you. I think that's all the questions I see that have come in on the chat at this point. But if somebody would like to unmute themselves and ask a question by voice, feel free to do so. Oh, take it away with the demo, Kerry.
All right, cool. So we have like about 14 minutes left, and let me just down here, and all right. So we should be able to see my screen. York, could you just confirm that it's
Yes.
Unity?
Yep, looks great.
Excellent, awesome, great. So just at a really high level, folks, what I'm going to show here is our Trimble Unity remote monitoring platform. So I have this filtered already for wastewater sites, but actually what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on this dashboard here. And so you're going to see this is the system health dashboard that I spoke about a moment ago. And in this case, I have 24 RTUs out in the field doing a variety of different monitoring. And I can see that I have no active alarms here. If I did, they would show. But I also show my alarm activity in the last 7 days. So I can see if there was an active one, or if it was a low or a high alarm. And you see how the system changes with me as I hover over top of these. I could click on one of these and drill down to that day and say, okay, well, on January 19th, what were my actual alarms? And I could take it even further if I wanted to. Also, my battery statuses. So again, we're battery operated here and operated for a very long time on a battery, but still, it's important to know that when we're doing standard maintenance, while I have 6 low batteries, okay, I can click on that and I can see exactly what sites they are, and I can then plan accordingly to have my team go out there and say, well, this one's at 16%. I better start, actually, this one's at 8. I better start here, then go to 16 and right on down the line. If I even clicked on this further, we could go right to the map to see exactly where the site is and even get driving directions if we wanted to. We also show our call status. So again, it's pretty common for our devices to call in a couple times a day, and when they do, they dump all of their data. But if you have a site that, in this case, we have 2 for some reason that are over 24 hours late, well, let's see what's going on here. Were these sites not, the battery not changed, or what's going on? So I see that this rain gauge here hasn't called in 5 months. That means I've not done a good job maintaining my site. So I better go check out what's going on. Is there a problem with the antenna? Does it need a new battery? Has a squirrel eaten the cable? You know, what's the deal here? So all summarized real nice and neat in the system health dashboard. Okay, now I'm back to my main screen, and you can see here we've got a bunch of different things that we can do. So I have the ability to group my sites. So if I wanted to group, for example, just my rain gauges, I could just click that, create a group. Now I'm just looking at my rain gauges. If I just wanted to look at zone 5, I could do the same. I also have the ability to show my in-service versus out-of-service sites. Why is this a benefit? Well, we just had a question asked about moving RTUs around. Perhaps you're doing a study where you are monitoring for 2 weeks across a basin, or you've been asked to Do you have enough capacity to handle a new development in a certain part of the system? So you want to do a 2-week study across that area. You want to keep that data, but the RTUs moved somewhere else. Well, I can show in service, out of service, or both. In my case, I'm showing just in service. I also have site types. So you can see I'm showing only wastewater pertinent RTUs because that's what we're talking about today. My lift stations, my rain gauges, my overflow sites and my flow sites. But I have other stuff here too. I have hydrant pressure, I have meters, I have PRVs and other things. So you can set all this up however you like. I'm just going to click on wastewater flow. Just literally click on it one time, and it's going to zoom me right on down to the location on the map and show me all the pertinent information about MS51 or Forest Road. You can see over here on the right-hand side that it's a flow site. It's in service, the name of the site, battery's good, when's the last time it called, when's it going to call again, and on down the line. You've got the RTU that's tied to this site. So if I click on the RTU, it's going to bring up a new window. And it's actually going to give me the ability to do a few different things. I can say, I want to edit this RTU. So if I click on edit, a new window is going to open. There it is. And you can see that this time, this guy is just calling in once a day. But if I wanted to change this to an hourly metric, I could just say by the hour, and I could say, I would like you to call me now every hour. And the next time this RTU calls in, it's going to accept this change, and it's going to start calling me every hour. Very helpful when you know a storm's coming through or something else. You also have the ability to change all of your sample rates and recording intervals and turn channels on and off here. So you can see this device is monitoring for level, velocity, and flow, as well as temperature. And there also happens to be a rain gauge here. But if I decided, you know what, I don't want the rain anymore, I'm going to just turn that off. Well, again, the next time that this RTU calls in, it's going to accept that change. Similarly, my alarms here, I've got a high alarm and a low alarm. I can change these thresholds however I like, whenever I want, and we'll receive alarm notifications based on these metrics that we set up ourselves. So let me cancel out of here, and let me cancel out of here. And I'm just going to go back to the same Forest Road site that we just looked at. And what I could do, and what I will do, is I could say, just show me the default report. So one click, default report. This is something I've set up myself. So I have said, for me, this is the report that I want to see by a single click. So in my case, as it's coming up here, we're going to have, and you can see down in the bottom part of the report, flow, velocity, and rainfall. These are the metrics that mean something to me. Apologies that the screen is still spinning. We've got my kids on virtual school stealing my bandwidth. So as soon as it decides to kick in here, we'll have it. There we go. So again, this is basically a week's worth of data. We can see right here that I've defaulted it to a week. I've got my metrics here: flow, velocity, rainfall. And as I track across the screen, the numbers change with me. I see I've got a little bit of a peak here, and we can see we had some rain. So that's expected. And I could come in here and I can zoom in to that little bit of a peak that we had. And I could say, geez, it'd be awful nice if I could look at this, not just on a graph, but actually see what those numbers were. Well, good news, you can. So I can click on View Table, and now I can hover over top of this top part, and it'll actually highlight for me down in the table what our peak was in this part of the system. And when I'm done with the table, I can just turn that table right off. I could do some other stuff too. So I can just reset here, and I could say, well, this is a week's worth of data. I really am only interested in yesterday, so I'm just going to click yesterday instead. And now it's essentially going to give me the last 24 hours that I just asked for. And there's all of these pre-canned times that you can select and see what you'd like here. There's a lot more going on at this site though than just looking at the metrics that I have. In fact, we could look at all of the measurements and see that this is what I had selected for my default report. but there's a lot more stuff going on here. I've got another level measurement. I've got the external power here. I've got low flows. I got temperature. I have all sorts of things that I could bring in and add to this report very quickly and very easily. So this is just a single click right from one site. But what else can we do? Well, we can scroll down here and see, okay, these are the alarms that I have set up. They're all green, which green is good. If we have any red, then we could click on the alarm specifically, and it would show us the report of the alarm and the threshold of the alarm as well. And here are all the measurements that I just showed on the other screen. So what I could do is I could say that I just want to look at flow, and I could say then show me that measurement for flow. And in this case, it'll do it for the last 24 hours, as we just talked about. So there's our flow. Notice here, we still have that peak. We just didn't have the rainfall. But if I want it, I can just click on rainfall, and it's going to bring in rainfall for me, just like that. So the software is quite intuitive, very quick and easy to build these reports. Now I know we're running short on time, but one thing I wanted to show that I always like, especially as it relates to wastewater, let me zoom out just a little bit. And each one of these icons is an active RTU in the system. And you can see over on the left-hand side, we have quite a few flow meters over here. And we have a couple basins set up, but what I love this tool, is I can take this polygon tool and I can say, I just want to draw just a shape over this part of the system here. And it's going to zoom me down to that part of the system, and it's going to bring up any pertinent sites in that system. So check it out. Over here on the left-hand side, I can click this checkbox and notice, because my naming conventions are good, I know this is a flow meter. I know this is not. PS stands for pump station. But then I have 2 more flow meters. Well, I'm going to uncheck the pump station because it's a different type of site. And I'm just going to say, just show me the default report. So notice what it does here is the default report that I showed a moment ago for the one site has automatically brought it up for 3 sites, tabulated at the top. Well, I looked at Indian Trail, I'm good. Let's look at Rural Street, okay? We'll bring up the same default report on Rural Street. Well, look at that peak over there. That storm kind of affected the system a little bit differently here. But I love that question, Tommy. That's the right question. I just happen to see that on my peripheral, and that's the right question. So check this out. Not only can you do it separately, but instead of saying default report, I'm going to say view measurement. And now there you go. So in my case, my default measurement is level. You could have it be flow or anything else you'd like, but now you've got 3 different sites, 3 different pieces of hardware in 3 different parts of the system, all on one single report. You like this report? Okay, good, me too. I can export it. I can download a CSV. I can save the picture of this. I can download an Excel file, whatever the case might be, whatever you need. Or if you say, man, this is a report I'm going to use every day and I want to just click it in one time, well, I can save it. And I can say, I want to save this thing as, I'll give it a title. I'm going to call it Tommy's report because he asked a good question. And I can save this as a site, or I can save it as a template. Now, in my case, I only selected site, but if I wanted to do it as a template, what that means is I could apply the same report over any site with the same type of information, and you'd have this report usable across the organization. All right. That's a lot of stuff. I wanted to save the last 2 minutes for any other questions. Happy to, and I know York, you can certainly jump in. I know there's been other demonstrations on our Trimble Unity platform. I'm really only scratching the surface here. But as I mentioned before, a piece of hardware is only as good as the software that supports it. And we're really proud of this software. And it does a lot of stuff. And we'd certainly be happy to dig in deeper for anyone that would like more information. And with that, York, with 1 minute left, I'll open up the floor.
Sure. Yeah, any more questions for Kerry while we've got him? Certainly a lot of good information today, Kerry, and thank you for sharing that. But anybody else want to feel free to unmute yourself and or type another question into the chat window if you'd like. Well, I
All
don't
right,
see
very
anybody
cool.
else I don't see anybody else at the moment. So certainly do appreciate all the good information you shared today, Kerry. And just a reminder, we will send out a link to this recording. Probably won't see it later today, but by tomorrow, we'll send that link out to all of you who attended today, but also to everyone who signed up and registered for the conference. And then even in addition to that, it'll be posted on our website. So at any time, somebody can take a look and listen to all the good information that Kerry has passed along today.